The influence of red on the genre of horror is also clear in the title, where of course the word burning is written in red. Also to do with the title, but contrasting typical convention of horror, is the fact that it's in a fairly simple font. This was to sort of keep the viewer guessing as to what's about to come, which lulls them into an almost false sense of security. Like many of the domestic slashers from the late 20th century, I set my film in a typical household, as can be seen by this establishing shot, with all the ordinary features, door, window, etc. This is of course to bring the terror on screen back to the viewer's own life, which of course sends the horrific message home. Of course, one of the main features of horror as a genre is the presence of death, and this is quite adequately represented through the physical appearance of the antagonist, who has dark, sunken eyes and pale skin, which relates back to the most basic representation of death, which is of course the skull. This long-duration point-of-view shot aimed to sort of build up a sense of suspense for the viewer, which is of course something which is present in more subtle horror films such as Psycho and Halloween. It contrasts some of the more recent films wherein fast, quick changes of shots aims to disorientate. The very first shot of the film is central to the Catwoman, which is of course a storyline features a cursed relic, something which has been present in horror as far back as the 20s, silent era films like The Monkey's Paw. By centralizing it in the very first shot, it makes its importance clear. The whole sequence is fairly brightly lit. This contrasts typical expectations of horror as being set in dark, dreary houses. Of course, the effect of having light backgrounds is it makes the actors seem fairly dark, which of course makes them more like shadows, empty shells, which the viewer can imprint themselves on, making them more relatable. The protagonists of the film are immediately introduced as just ordinary people. They're arguing about money problems, they're just a young couple living together. This mimics the American slasher films of the 70s and 80s, wherein they try to make the characters more like the viewers, of course. Again, it links back to this relatability. Conversely, the antagonist of the film is very inhuman. He lacks the basic physical traits of a human. For instance, he doesn't appear to blink throughout the sequence, just sort of snarls, no speech, nothing to relate to, and thus it makes it more of an alien force, which is more frightening. This shot of the antagonist's teeth from the first edit is far too bright. When it came to doing the final edit, I raised the contrast and lowered the brightness. This gave it a more red, cracked feel. Red, of course, representing blood and anger, two of the cornerstones of horror as a genre, or essentially representing pain.